Smoke here, tidbits from the trail. Sometimes you gotta take a punch and know that you can take a punch to get what you need and what you want in life. And what I mean by that is a lot of times we run around tiptoeing around some issue because we're afraid of the consequences. We're afraid of what will happen. And it could be a business situation, it could be a relationship. We tiptoe around, we walk on eggshells, we bend over backwards to avoid the conflict. And if you're like many of us, you would rather get along and not have conflict. But sometimes you have to be willing to deal with the consequences in order to get to a good resolution. And that can be, again, in business or in a relationship. And, the willingness to take whatever comes your way, think through what is the downside, what is the real risk here of, if this thing falls apart, if this relationship falls apart, if this business deal falls apart and we end up in litigation, and what's the worst that can happen? And kind of play that out and kind of, and ask the question multiple times, like, what's the worst that could happen? I could get sued. Okay, well, what's the worst that could happen there? Well, we might have to spend money on legal fees. Okay, what's the worst that could happen there? Well, we might have to go through time and discovery. You keep going, and then you play it out until you get to, well, it's like I could live, if I had to get to a resolution, I could live with the consequences of this. Same thing with a relationship. It's what's the worst that can happen if I deal with this issue? It could be, well, it could fall apart. Okay, well, it might fall apart. What next? Okay, then you pick up the pieces and move on, or you try to reconcile. But the alternative is walking on eggshells and not addressing whatever the issue is. And I think in many cases, we can all do that for some period of time, but at the end of the day, burying an issue or ignoring a conflict will only get you so far. And at some point, you have to address it. And I find that you can't necessarily get to the other side, which is a great outcome, without being willing to, quote unquote, take a punch. And once you can do that, you can do it anytime with any situation, and it's powerful. So that's my tidbit from the trail. Hope it helps. Thanks.